Today is all about momentum. Momentum that we've achieved as an alliance. We're going to talk about this important idea of student momentum and how it is an essential component of what we see as part of our work moving forward and incorporating it into a new vision of how we might integrate our game changer strategies in a way that are going to achieve even greater outcomes for students. So let's start talking about what we've accomplished so far. You can see the map of our alliance is 44 members strong. And we've made some pretty significant progress. And you've heard us at meeting after meeting talk to you about our game changer strategies. Strategies that we know can dramatically increase student success in many ways related to our metrics that we focus on. And you have responded. You have begun to implement many, if not all, of these strategies in some of your states and your campuses. So let's just briefly walk through them. 15 to finish. How is it that such a simple idea can have such a dramatic impact? Simply having advisors and developing communication campaigns that articulates to new entering students and their parents the value of enrolling in 15 credits in a semester or 30 credits in a year. Telling them that if they do so, they're more likely to complete college on time, that they can save considerable money, and by just simply delivering that message, we can see dramatic improvements in students enrolling in more credits. This is a graph from my colleague Danifu Elston's former institution where he helped start 15 to finish. And every place that we've looked, you see the similar kind of graph. After implementing 15 to finish, dramatic improvements in students in enrolling and also completing 15 credits in a semester. And you have responded. It is caught on like wildfire. We actually don't have any idea how many different institutions are doing 15 to finish now. We're doing our best. But it truly is becoming a game changer strategy for many institutions as a way to change the culture of their institutions and encourage students to think about getting on track to on-time completion by enrolling at a full credit load. Math pathways. There is really no debate any longer. Math faculty leaders have spoken. They say that if a student isn't planning on entering a program that requires calculus, they should not have to be taking college algebra. And instead, they should be enrolling in a math course that is more effectively aligned with their program of study. Something that actually is relevant to what it is that they'll need to know and be successful in their program. We're starting to see a great deal of movement on this as well. Thanks to the leadership of the Charles Dana Center in Texas and our partnership with them, we're beginning to see this idea proliferate at scale in states. Math faculty leaders coming together, setting a vision for how they can develop these pathways, working with their client faculty and working with their institutions to begin to implement these pathways. And while the data is just starting to trickle in, it's pretty clear. Students, when you implement a math pathway strategy, you see higher enrollments in gateway math courses in the first year, and of course, higher completion rates in math courses in the first year. And then my baby, co-requisite support. We know now that far too many students are getting placed into developmental education. Students of color are far more likely to get placed into developmental education than the general population. And we also know that those same students of color are far less likely to come out the other side completing a gateway math or English course within the first 2 years. And we know that the reason is not because the students can't do the work, and we know it's not because faculty are teaching poorly, it's because we've designed a system that's ineffective. Long remedial sequences result in students dropping out of the system. When you have to take 3 semesters of remedial math, you don't really get too excited about being a college student any longer. You begin to wonder why you're there. And many students choose to disappear. But when we can put students directly into college courses and provide them academic support in those courses, eliminating those opportunities for students to leak out of the system, we can see remarkable results. And we've seen it, and we've seen it at scale. 2 to 3 times the success rate in college-level math and English in half the time. And of course, we're beginning to see this catch on like wildfire as well. I heard 2 or 3 people come up to me yesterday sharing me their wonderful results that they're getting by implementing co-requisite. But what we're also seeing is tremendous commitment at the state level to scaling co-requisite. We're working with 13 states right now that are working towards that goal. We already have several that are there. And just this year, you heard yesterday, Texas is committing itself at scale. By 2020, 75% of their students who need academic support will be in a co-requisite. California passed legislation this year to ensure that really the vast majority of students will be placed into college-level math and English courses in their institutions, and if they need academic support, it should be delivered as a co-requisite. This is quickly approaching a tipping point. And then GPS Direct, CCA's version of guided pathways. It's really very simple. Developing a set of strategies that enable students to make an informed choice by putting them, going through a process like we talked about yesterday, like Purpose First. If they're not quite sure what major they want to be in, ask them to enroll in a meta major. Design a set of courses for them, a map, semester by semester, that they can follow all the way to completion at 15 credits a semester. Ensure that they get the courses they need, and then default them into those courses. Start from getting them enrolled in the course, whether that's using technology or just simple advising, to ensure students are on a map and stay on that map, and if they veer away, find a way to get them back on track. This, of course, is also catching on like wildfire, and CCA is not the only organization that's been focused on this. AACC, JFF, and of course CCRC have been powerful advocates for this idea. And so it is, again, starting to catch on across the country. So now we're talking about what the next challenge is, and I have to tell you a little secret. While we, of course, are very proud of the game changer strategies, we've always aspired to be able to tell our alliance members that it's not about each individual strategy, but we think that they all ultimately should work together as an integrated strategy. But I'll be honest with you, we were afraid to talk to you about it that way because we didn't know exactly how to do it. It's overwhelming to think about going all in on all of these strategies. We didn't know exactly how an institution should go about doing that or a state should go about doing it. So we were reluctant to doing it until today. And the key part of why we think we can send this message now has to do with some new research and new information about what we're learning about student success that I think can compel us to work forward and to implement these strategies in an integrated way. And that is the idea of student momentum. A year ago at our annual convening, if you were here, you heard us talk about this powerful idea of student momentum, where research is revealing to us that students who can complete 30 credits in their first year, complete a math and English gateway course, enter a program of study, and complete 9 credits in that program of study have far greater odds of earning a post-secondary credential. That is something that we had to pay attention to, and the data back it up. This is research from the CCRC, and it shows that very top line there shows that when students enroll in 15 credits, they start on a trajectory that basically enables them to continue to enroll in higher credit loads, reducing their time to degree, reducing their costs, and creating momentum for their success. So it's basically starting at a high point. Once students start at 15 and they're successful at 15, they can continue to take 15. They've done it. There's no convincing that needs to be done. And so starting with 15 builds student momentum. This is data from the Tennessee Board of Regents, where they examined what was happening with students in terms of their success in gateway math and English courses. And they found, and this is community college data, but I can show you the same data with 4-year institutions, that when students complete their gateway math and English in the first academic year, they are dramatically more likely to earn a post-secondary credential. 9 credits in a program of study. Well, here's what's really interesting. Even enrolling in 9 credits in your program dramatically improves your opportunities for success. But of course, completing it improves it even further. This is 2-year data. This is 4-year data. So you all know CCA. We don't ignore data like this. We take it to heart, and we know we need to figure out a way to incorporate it into our strategy. And it's for that reason that we are going to incorporate into our discussions around the game changer strategies the idea of the momentum year. So it's not about adding a new game changer as much as it is about how to effectively integrate our existing game changers in a way that's pointing towards how we can ensure more students achieve momentum in their first academic year. What's beautiful about this isn't about a completion strategy per se in the whole where we have to wait for 2, 4, 6 years to see the results. If you implement these strategies, you will see results within the first year. You will know whether you are on track to completion for your students. But still, how is it that we do this, right? It's good enough to say, okay, go for it. But we need some guidance about how it is that we would actually go about implementing a momentum year strategy and a momentum strategy on your campuses. And of course, when we're looking for answers at CCA, we look to our CCA fellows. And in this particular case, we looked at Tristan Denley. Some of you may have heard his presentation on Wednesday, or some of his colleagues from the University System of Georgia yesterday talk about what they're doing. And I think it's truly groundbreaking work. But let me tell you a story about how Tristan got to this point. We obviously were in very close communication with him as he was scaling co-requisite support. And you've probably seen this statistic, or this data, showing on the right-hand side, overall, the dramatic increases in student success, and this is math, that they achieved through co-requisites, the same in English, from 12% passing in a year their gateway math course to over 55%. But what's also remarkable is what's happening on the left side of the graph. Students with ACT scores of 13 and below, we're seeing their success rates, dare I say, 1,000% better, right? Because they were enrolled in co-requisite academic support. Further, he saw that students who completed co-requisite successfully saw much higher retention levels and earned far more credits. So co-rec, hashtag co-rec works, right? And absolutely, others have seen similar results across the country. But the thing is, Tristan didn't stop there. He knew that there was another problem that needed to be solved. While 55% is a tremendous number, he was interested about what was happening with the other 45%. What's going on there? It clearly has nothing to do with ACT score, right? Because students across the board are being very successful, so he wanted to get to the bottom of the question. And this graph is the first one that I saw that really blew my mind as in terms of the results that he was looking at. So what this is looking at the earned hour percentage for students who were in co-requisites within the same semester. Right, so of all the credits they enrolled in, how many did they complete? And what they found, regardless of ACT score, that students who passed co-requisites, regardless of ACT score, passed virtually all their courses, right? You would think maybe, the 13s would be a little bit lower, right? Absolutely not the case. It's a straight line. It doesn't matter what your ACT score, you're passing almost all of your courses. But unfortunately, the converse is also true. That students who were failing co-requisites were failing almost all their courses. In fact, the vast majority were earning 0 credits. 0 credits. So, when you look at this data and you see when students who are, regardless of ACT score, passing their gateway courses and passing all of their courses, and students who, regardless of ACT score, are failing all of their courses when they fail co-requisites in college levels, we absolutely have a wrong definition of college readiness. It's not about academic readiness any longer. It's about college readiness. There is something going on that we're not capturing in an ACT score. And of course, that is what a huge movement that's happening across the country. Multiple measures, California's amazing research showing that by looking at high school GPA, you can get a far better picture on whether or not students are going to be successful in college-level courses. So, once again, Tristan went to work. And he said, I need to understand what was going on with these students. And he worked to develop a survey, which he has deployed in Tennessee and is about to deploy in Georgia, that's trying to track what's going on with students in terms of their academic mindset. And when he looked at the data, this is what he found. That students who have a clear academic purpose, understand the relevance of their gateway courses, have a strong academic mindset, perform better, right? It's about a holistic conversation with the student about where they're at in terms of why they're there, how they feel about being there, and encouraging them to identify their purpose. So I don't know about you, but I see some pretty good alignment with some of these other game changer strategies that we're talking about related to momentum. Academic purpose, well, you heard all about that yesterday with Purpose First. The use of meta majors, right, broad areas of study if a student's undecided, that allows them to make an initial choice and then go through an initial set of courses that can then help them make a choice of a major, hopefully by the end of the first year. Relevance in their curriculum, math pathways courses that are absolutely relevant to their program, a set of courses in a program of study early on to get to those 9 credits. If students know that they're actually doing college and doing their program, you can imagine that they understand the relevance. And then focusing in very deeply, and this is really the hard work ahead, I think, proactively advising students to ensure that they know that they can be successful, that we're providing the guidance that they need, and hence the reasons we're so thrilled to be working with organizations like NASPA and NACADA on how we can support students more deeply. So it's time for a change. The days of random acts of completion need to be over. We need to be thinking about a more synergistic strategy. So CCA is making a change today. We're changing from seeing our strategies as singular silos that you can sort of pick and choose from to a unified strategy that looks a little bit like this, called Momentum Pathways. And at the center of it is the Momentum Year, as a mechanism to drive our reform efforts to ensure that more students start strong and ultimately finish a post-secondary credential. But we're not just going to tell you, okay, go for it, right? We're also very committed to making sure that you have the tools and the strategies to make it happen. And so really when we think about this, it's very simple. We think you could develop an action plan that would allow you to implement strategies as you go along, focused on getting to a point where you're implementing the Momentum Year. And then once you've seen the success of getting more students to those critical benchmarks, then you can see the finish line, right? Focusing in more on the efforts around proactive advising and academic maps that lead a student all the way to completion. So there is no reason why next fall most of your institutions couldn't start a Momentum Pathway strategy if they have not already done so, right, by starting with 15 to finish. In fact, we had a conversation with many minority-serving institutions this week, and they all committed to implementing 15 to finish next fall. They are beginning the work of doing Momentum Pathways. And you know what? Many of you are already there too. If you are doing 15 to finish, co-rec or math pathways, you are already started to do Momentum Pathways. You just have to stick to it. So, of course, in providing that support that we need to provide, it's not just about, okay, have at it, as I said, but we, of course, go back to some of the key principles that we've started with CCA on. How do you establish the conditions for change? And we've worked very hard this past year to look at what we've done in states in terms of how an effective implementation strategy is done. One, and the first step is getting the commitment of the institutions, getting their name, if you can, on the dotted line to say that we are committed to a Momentum Pathway strategy, getting it all out on the table right away. It's not about sort of rushing people to the outcome, but committing to the process and the journey. Creating the right team of people, hopefully that represent the full diversity of students at your institution to begin the work. Designing and identifying goals, equity goals and outcomes for yourself along the way that you can measure yourselves against. Targets that you want to achieve. Of course, collecting and disaggregating data and aligning your resources appropriately to get the outcomes. But then we don't want to stop there. Once you've implemented, we want to continue to look at our data, look at ways that we can close attainment gaps, and develop more and deeper strategies to meet the students' needs who really need it. And you're going to hear more about that a little bit later from Sarah about adults, but also how are we closing attainment gaps? How are we focusing on strategies to make sure that those students are served and that we are indeed, while we're implementing the strategies, making sure no student is left behind. And then finally, you had them on your table yesterday, our scaling standards. These are tools that we are developing based on you and your input. We had a meeting last summer, our Summer Action Summit, where we actually identified and proposed and then revised a set of standards based on what we're seeing in the field about how to effectively implement these types of strategies. a focus on equity, ensuring that we put closing attainment gaps at the front of the conversation, and looking at strategies related to doing that, and you can see them in the standards. Of course, as always, a commitment to metrics and evidence to make the case, but also to measure impact and to drive continuous improvement. Using policy as a tool to sustain the effective reforms, right? If you're committed to scale, you need to be thinking and talking about policy. Communications, this is really important. This is something CCA, of course, cares a lot about. Ensuring that we're implementing effective communication strategies to make sure that everybody on your campus and key stakeholders around it are fully informed and knowledgeable about what has happened. Nobody wants any surprises, right? And we've got some opportunities and strategies for how you can make that happen in our scaling standards. And implementation. I think we know a thing or two about how to go through a process of implementation, and doing so in a way that's urgent and committed to implementation in a timely way so that you can get dramatic results. So hopefully, we've got more tools than ever, and you're going to hear about more tools later on today that we're developing for you. But we're thrilled to be able to announce today that as we start this work on Momentum Pathways, we already have 6 of our Alliance members who have said we're in. Montana, Hawaii, Houston GPS, West Virginia, CUNY, and New Hampshire. The fact of the matter is, they're not starting from square one. Let's hear it for them. Yes, absolutely. So the fact of the matter is, they've been already doing this work for a long time, right? But now it's about getting to the finish line and using this vision as a way to get there. So I'm super excited to have some representatives who are going to be doing this work with us today to tell you a little bit about why they're committing themselves to Momentum Pathways. And we're going to start with my friend from the Montana University System, John Cech.
Montana, just to set the context for our story, if you were to place Montana over the eastern seaboard of the United States, northwest Montana would be over Chicago, southeast Montana would be over Washington, D.C., and we have barely 1 million people. Montana is facing a workforce crisis. Montana is an aging state. There we go. 25% of our workforce is expected to retire in the next decade. That's because we are the 4th oldest state in the nation. Our number of high school graduates has been declining for about 10 years. It's starting to tick up, but we will not reach 2006 levels until 2023. Our economy is strong in Montana. Our unemployment rate is 3.9%. But most of the jobs in Montana these days require some form of post-secondary education. So we have a problem. We know that. But our only solution is to grow college participation and completion from both traditionally aged students and non-traditionally aged students. Only 6 out of 10 Montana high school graduates go on to pursue post-secondary education, and in higher education, we capture about 4 out of 10. We know that if a Montana resident graduates from a Montana high school and enrolls in one of our state's colleges, there's a really good chance they'll go to work in Montana. In fact, we know that 78% of our 4-year graduates are employed in Montana after leaving college, and 86% of the 2-year graduates. However, we have a leaky pipeline. Our 6-year completion rate for the 4-year degrees, about 53%, and our 3-year completion rate for an associate degree is about 20%. That is simply not good enough, and the Board of Regents and Commissioner are not satisfied with that. So in 2013, Governor Steve Bullock and Commissioner Clayton Christian launched Complete College Montana in partnership with Complete College America, with the primary goals to improve student completion and reduce student debt. Data played a very important role with our journey. We soon discovered that mathematics is a barrier for many students. We learned that our traditional methods of remediation simply were not working. In the Montana University System at our 2-year campuses, about 55% of first-time freshmen at the two-year campuses require up to 4 remedial math courses, and up to 25% at the 4-year campuses require between 1 and 4 remedial math courses. But as you can see from the slide, less than 10% ever graduate. The students are simply, we believe, becoming exhausted, becoming frustrated, and drop out. Montana State University President Waded Cruzado highlighted this concern, and I believe said it so well. She said, "Not every student who fails at math will abandon college, but almost every student who leaves college has failed at math." So in the Montana University system, we felt we had a call to action. The problem was very clear to us. College retention and completion were directly related to our systems around placement, retention, and guess what? College algebra. We knew that we had to get faculty to buy into the problem. So the commissioner created a Math Pathways Task Force that was, and I emphasize, faculty-led, administratively supported. And we began by asking ourselves 3 questions, and they were, why is college algebra used as the default math course for most non-STEM pathways? Why are 45% of college algebra students failing the class in the Montana University system? And are we willing to accept that remedial math sequence is not working? After much deliberation with the task force, we agreed to recommend the creation of a quantitative reasoning course as a replacement for college algebra for non-STEM. The task force members, remember, faculty-led, the task force members fanned out across the system to get buy-in. That was key and provided credibility. The campuses reworked the STEM and non-STEM pathways. But the Math Pathways Task Force realized that the different pathways were only a partial solution. And based on the research that Complete College America provided, we knew that co-requisite education had to be next on our list. And frankly, there was tepid support among the faculty in the system for this effort. And that was until November 2016, thanks to Complete College America, we held a summit in Bozeman focused on co-requisite support. And CCA provided content experts from different states to come to Bozeman, many in this room, to visit with our faculty, our staff, our advisors, and our leadership. Following that summit, we did gain short-term wins. Apprehension changed to buy-in. Montana State University Billings, Montana State University in Bozeman, and Helena College were the first to implement co-requisite design. The co-requisite students performed as well, if not better, than the students deemed college ready. And I'll share with you, Helena College reported 97% pass rates for their co-requisite students last year. The leader of one of our sites, Ms. Charity Stewart at MSU Billings, confessed that she was not supportive. She was doubtful that this would work. But thanks to Provost Hoare and other folks, she was a good soldier and moved ahead with the development of the course. And now, given MSU Billings' successful rates, she's one of our greatest supporters in the system. So the Montana University system is on track to scale statewide by 2018. So in Montana, there's momentum. And something very special has happened in Montana over the past 4 years since joining CCA. Conversations are more focused on student success. Faculty, staff, and advisors are talking about this work. Students are talking about it. The Board of Regents are talking about it. In fact, the Board of Regents talk about it at every single meeting. And I would say most importantly, we've garnered the trust of the faculty to do this work. So just a month ago, on October 25th, on the campus of the University of Montana, we held a Complete College Montana Summit. 150 faculty, staff, and administrators from our public colleges, as well as K-12 partners, and 6 of our 7 tribal college presidents attended. In fact, Dr. David Yarlett, the president of Little Bighorn College, is with us today. As a result, within 2 weeks of the summit, every campus of the Montana University system agreed to implementing and scaling the Game Changer student success strategies. As Bruce said, Montana has become a Momentum Pathway Alliance member state. This is extraordinary, and I'm proud to say that all of this has happened without an edict or lightning bolt being fired from the commissioner or the Board of Regents. But I believe our secret sauce has been, first of all, the support that we've had from the commissioner and the board, and then engaging the faculty on the front end and having them essentially lead the effort. However, we could not have done this, and I feel I speak for the commissioner and the board, without the support of Complete College America along the way over the past 4 years. So thank you, Tom, and thank you, Bruce.
Aloha. I'm Pearl Iboshi. I'm the Director of Institutional Research and Analysis for the University of Hawaii System. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 15 to Finish and our STAR GPS system. Many of you have already heard, our Hawaii team has talked a lot about this at CCA and at other venues. And so today, I will really focus on the interaction between 15 to Finish and our STAR GPS system and how it really helped us move forward on other things. And I'm the IR person, but I'm not giving you one single statistic today. So our 15 to Finish campaign started in 2010 at our first CCA meeting. I'm not saying this just to make the CCA folks feel good, because we already won the President's Award last year for both of our strategies, 15 to Finish and STAR GPS. But we were forced by CCA at that first meeting to sit down with the data as our team and look at what we could do and plan our strategy. And what we decided is that it really was our 4-year or our on-time graduation rates that were really low as compared to other peers. And our 150% rates were okay. Not great, but okay. But our on-time rates were really quite bad. And so the team decided at that time that we were going to focus on-time graduation. And we looked at all of the data for the different groups, and everybody was low. There was no gap. It was all low. And so at that time, we talked about what we could do, and that phrase, 15 to Finish, was born. So we went back to our campus, we did more research, and we decided that this really would be a wonderful thing to do for students. And so we thought, okay, we're a system. What can we do really as a system? There's not that much you can do quickly if you try to work on curriculum issues. And there's also, it's very difficult to force the campus to do anything. We could only cajole. And so what we decided to do is to go straight to the students and the parents. We created a marketing campaign, and we really looked for the course of least resistance. We found the path of least resistance and really developed it into the media campaign. So this is our first secret, is find a path that you can actually follow based on where you are. The second thing that we did is we had a team, and we had this most amazing marketing and communications person. She went even faster than sometimes we were ready for. She went straight to the campus communication team and got their support. She helped hire a marketing firm to develop our collateral material and ads. She bought ads at TV and got free ads elsewhere. And she, most importantly, used the data in the message. And it really worked. We really knew it worked when one of our colleagues came up to us and said, I talked to my daughter and I told her, why are you taking so much credits? And her daughter said, 15 to finish, Mom. So we knew that our campaign was successful, and we saw right after that first year of the campaign a big rise in the percentage of students taking 15 credits. So after this, we went back to the data. We made sure that the students that took 15 credits were still doing well, and we kept validating and revalidating as time went on. And because of that, we were able to gain support of faculty and staff who were at first a little reluctant. So we were able to really solidify with changes in policies once everyone was more accepted of the campaign. So the secret here is that it really is not a one-time deal. You have to keep going back and saying the same thing over and over again. And you have to validate and revalidate. And most importantly, you have to share that information. It really made a big difference in terms of moving forward. And at the same time, our graduation rates began to improve. And so this even made the case even stronger. We were very lucky because at the same time that we started our 15 to Finish campaign, we had begun our STAR GPS improvements as well. So as every campus, we had program guides. So if you looked in your catalog, you could see the courses that you're supposed to take to complete a major. And our flagship campus, Manoa, began to require their programs to put them in semester by semester pathways, and with 120 credits and in 4 years. And so we asked the other campuses to do the same as well. And they kept telling us, no, we have pathways. And we said, no, you don't. And so we brought CCA, we brought Larry Abel, we brought people in to talk to the campuses and help them develop these pathways. And so our secret on this one is sometimes you have to bring the big guns, the outside experts, to convince faculty and campuses to move forward on an initiative. Soon thereafter, our brilliant STAR designer was able to put these pathways into our STAR GPS system and create pathways for students online that allowed them to see exactly what their path was going to be until completion. If they took a class that did not fit in the pathway, it said recalculating, and it recalculated and showed them what the new path would be. It's much like your car GPS will recalculate when you take a wrong turn. And so our secret in this one is really we were able to use our own technology. We were able to make the best use of our technology, and we didn't have to really buy all the bells and whistles, and yet we were able to move this forward with some very inventive design. And success led to other successes. So we were able to push forward on meta majors. Our community colleges really went on a total revision of our Dev Ed programs. We really pushed forth on early college. We're now starting a campaign to bring back adults to college. And we continue to be very successful, I think, because people no longer see us, or see us less as the big evil system, and more as a partner. So we're now beginning our next journey. We call it 15 to Finish version 3, the right 15 with a purpose. So we're looking at adding career and lifetime goals into our STAR GPS system and to advising, and which very much aligns with the CCA GPS Direct Initiative. And so our final secret in what we did is we had a lot of luck. Things happened to happen at the right time. Things were already in place when we started 15 to Finish that we really didn't think about as prerequisites, but to some degree they were. we had already at that time degree goals. And so all of our campuses were focused on getting degrees out. We also had 120 and 60 credit maximums at the campuses. And we also had banded tuition at our four-year campuses. So all of these policies really made a difference in how successful 15 to Finish was. And so the secret in this is not that it's better to be lucky than good, but really that the next steps, that every step builds upon the next step, and that you really need to look at how all of these things fit together. And so the approach being taken by the CCA now with the momentum, we believe is really the most effective way forward. Thank you.
I am Betty Fortune. I'm from Houston Community College in the great city of Houston, Texas, and I am a part of the GPS team that's way over there in the corner. All right. But I also serve as the Executive Director for Success and Completion at Houston Community College. And Houston Community College is a very large community college. We have 27 locations spread out all over the city of Houston. One thing we did big in Houston is enrollment. For many years, our focus was on access, getting more students into our colleges, getting them enrolled in classes. And so we were focused on that because our funding was based on contact hours and enrollment. But once the city, or the state of Texas rather, went to the movement of formulas, funding, we knew we had to do some things different. Not that we were not already looking at student success, but we need to be more strategic. One thing that helped us in this movement was the fact that we got a brand new chancellor whose mantra every day was student success for every student. That was the beginning of a great change in the culture of Houston Community College. Once we became a part of the movement of guided pathways, we were then able to start working on our processes. But before we could do that, we had to understand what were we working with, and this is what we looked like at that time. Our retention rate from fall to fall was 47%. Our graduation rates in 2 years was 6%. Our transfer rates to our feeder colleges, 22%. The number of students coming to us in needing of developmental education assistance was a whopping 40%. So we took a hard look at ourselves to see where are we in this work and what was needed to be done. But we also recognized that we could not approach the faculty and staff one more time with a brand new initiative. You just can't do that over and over again because there is such a thing as initiative fatigue. So we began to just talk about how would we present this notion of pathways. And so it was agreed that this is not an initiative, but this is just the new way of business at HCC. So when we began to talk about this work and those numbers that I just shared with you, we always talk in terms of this is the new way of business at HCC, which would be pathways for all students. The second thing we learned that first, we had to have the top people support. We had to have that in place, and we knew right off the bat that our chancellor was with us. Secondly, we had to talk to the people that did this work every day. We couldn't do it in isolation. So we understood that a cross-functional team was necessary to make this work. So bringing them in, talking about this is just going to be a new way of doing business. This is an opportunity. This is nothing to frown upon. It's not a new initiative that's going to be started and will die out next year. It will be funded. We're going to do this. So that's how the whole work began. Once we began working with a cross-functional team, meaning that we had people from financial aid on the team. We had all of student services. We had instruction together, coming together, talking about how can we put into place all of the principal strategies involved in Pathways. It was a wonderful experience. Does that mean that we didn't have disagreements? We had some heated meetings oftentimes, especially when you're talking about transferring to this institution and the math course that they accept is different from the math course that one accepts. So those were some tough, really tough conversations. But guess what? We decided that we were all in with the Pathways work. And we continue to do this work because we understand at the end of the day that it takes a whole village to make this work in the great city of Houston. That's why I'm very happy to be a part of the Houston GPS, because it not only affects the students at Houston Community College, but it affects the students at our neighboring colleges as well, the San Jac College, our Lone Star College, our Texas Southern University, and the University of Houston systems. So it was the ability to get the greatest bang by bringing everybody to the table, doing this work together. And at the end of the day, we decided it's not about us. It's not about the faculty teaching when they want to teach. It's not about us going to the campus we want to be located at, but it really was about the students. So with that said, we decided at Houston GPS, and I know they'll agree with me, that we're all in with the Guided Pathways work.
I'm Corley Dennison. I'm a Vice Chancellor with the West Virginia Higher Education Policy System. As a West Virginia native growing up in a small rural town, I remember the miners and loggers walking home after a hard day's work, their faces streaked with sweat and dirt. That economy and culture are changing. A new economy is taking hold in our state, and higher education plays an important role in this transition. In fact, the West Virginia Department of Commerce projects that by 2020, 51% of West Virginia jobs will require an associate's degree or higher. Excuse me. Currently, 30% of West Virginians hold a degree, well below the national average of 46%. A study from Georgetown University predicted that West Virginia would have to increase the number of degrees being awarded by 20,000 between now and 2020 to meet labor demand. Working with CCA, the Commission and the CTC Council has launched a program entitled Double the Degrees, a comprehensive strategy to double the number of college degrees awarded in West Virginia by 2025. Specific strategies to meet this goal include bringing co-requisite remediation to scale, launching the 15 to Finish campaign, and implementing the Momentum Year. In 2010, and there's a clicker around here somewhere. Is this it? There we go. In 2010, 14,206 degrees were awarded in West Virginia's public colleges and universities. By 2016, that number had grown to 18,600. That's a 23% increase and a record number. West Virginia achieved these, thank you. West Virginia achieved these numbers by increasing retention rates among traditional students and retraining adult learners in the new economy. The Double the Degree initiative has a goal of 40,000 degrees or certificates by the year 2025. In 2015, the HTPC launched the 15 to Finish campaign, a system-wide effort encouraging students to take a full course load of 15 credit hours or more each semester. All public colleges have agreed to support the awareness campaign, and since the effort began, the number of first-time freshmen taking 15 credit hours or more in the four-year system has increased by 7 percentage points. In the community college system, the average number of credits being taken each semester has increased from 13.6 to 14.3. As early as 2011, the Commission began awarding grants to institutions to experiment with alternative delivery of remedial education. Each year in West Virginia's four-year schools, 20 to 25% of incoming freshmen require remediation in math, English, or both. In the community college system, it's higher, as 68% of new students are placed in some form of remediation. By 2013, the community college system committed to be fully at scale with co-requisite courses by the fall of 2014, 1 year. The results were immediate. The CTC system had a gateway math pass rate of 13% and a gateway English pass rate of 37%. After 1 year of co-requisite courses, gateway math pass rates increased to 62% and English pass rates to 68%. In addition to increased graduation rates, some community colleges have reported the need to alter class schedules because more students are progressing to courses in their major. The four-year schools have gone on to a more incremental approach than the CTCs, but are well on their way of meeting our goal of 80% of all students needing remediation being placed in a co-requisite course by 2018. Of course, data always lags behind, so the most recent data for the 4 years is the 2016 report card, and that would be a partial implementation of scaling to co-requisite. The results are promising. English and writing pass rates have increased from 46 to 71%, and math pass rates have increased from 32 to 45%. We anticipate these numbers will rise. For schools that were early adopters of full-scale co-requisite delivery, the results have been very impressive. Two examples are Fairmont State with a gateway math pass rate that went from 28 to 83%, and West Liberty University, where English pass rates increased from 46 to 91%. The success of our co-requisite efforts have given us the confidence to move forward with our Momentum Year initiative as a statewide convening of 2- and 4-year public schools is planned for this spring. Our Momentum Year strategies include degree mapping, improved advising, and a call for students to complete 30 credit hours in a year. The goal of achieving 40,000 degrees is a highly aspirational goal. However, we feel we are laying the foundation to meet that goal. With 15 to finish, co-rec, and the Momentum Year, we believe we can double the degrees by 2025. Thank you.
I'm Donna Linderman. I am the University Dean for Student Success Initiatives at the City University of New York. CUNY in 2007 was a very different university than it is today in 2017. Some might say it was the best of times and the worst of times. While our enrollment was booming and we saw increased SAT scores at our most selective senior colleges, our community college graduation rates were abysmal. Far too many students were stuck in the morass of remediation, and it was a challenge to transfer credits across our seemingly fully integrated system. These seemingly intractable problems kept our then-Chancellor Matthew Goldstein up at night. He likes to tell the story of pacing his apartment night after night, wondering about how to solve them. Well, his concern, and a bevy of incredibly talented and visionary individuals across CUNY, many of whom are in the room with me today, set in place a set of remarkable initiatives that have completely changed the landscape of CUNY and how we address those types of challenges. I'd like to start with our signature initiative, Accelerated Study and Associate Programs, which brings together financial resources that remove the barriers to full-time study for associate degree students, provides structured degree pathways, and integrates comprehensive student support services, specifically high-touch advisement for every student, so that students gain and maintain academic momentum and are on track to graduate within 3 years. ASAP results have been remarkable. We've served 22,000 students to date across 11 cohorts, and our average 3-year graduation rate is 53% compared to 24% for matched comparison group students. Our original funding from the City of New York, who we're eternally grateful to, was fully baselined, and our current mayor, Bill de Blasio, has invested heavily in ASAP's expansion from 4,300 students in 2014 to 25,000 students next year. This year, we will serve 21,000 students in ASAP, and we're seeing no reduction in our graduation rates. Equally important, because equity has been mentioned several times, is that ASAP is equally impactful across all student subgroups. Everyone benefits from ASAP, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, income, or admission type. The program's been found to be cost-beneficial and cost-effective, and we're delighted to see that our expansion to 25,000 students is going to include an exciting full college embrace at Bronx Community College, where next year nearly all first-time, full-time students at Bronx will be placed into an ASAP pipeline. Another remarkable initiative is our newest community college, Gutman Community College, which opened its doors 5 years ago. Gutman completely reimagines what a college experience looks like for a group of urban, culturally diverse students. It completely redevelops the first year. It creates a collaborative context for faculty and student support service staff to work together. It completely eliminates standalone remediation, integrates peer mentoring, and creates a highly interactive student experience that's unique in the country. Gutman has now graduated 3 cohorts and has a 3-year graduation rate of 46%. So in the area of success and completion, CUNY's doing great. But what about students who come to CUNY with very significant remedial needs? CUNY Start and Math Start are our signature pre-matriculation transition programs for students with significant needs. These programs target students that have needs either in all 3 areas or, in the case of Math Start, deep need in mathematics. Students agree to defer their matriculation for 1 semester for CUNY Start to participate in an intensive, very carefully structured intervention led by teachers who have been specially trained in the classroom of a master teacher for a full semester. The results have been remarkable. While 70% of our CUNY Start students enter with needs in all 3 basic skills areas, after completing the program, more than half have fully eliminated every one of those needs and can go directly into gateway coursework. In the case of Math Start, which targets students with both arithmetic and elementary algebra need, one of the biggest barriers in higher education at the moment, a recent summer cohort, 74% of students who had double math need fully eliminated those needs in only 8 weeks and were ready to enter a gateway course when they matriculated. Math Start has been so successful that the city has invested in a major expansion to 4,000 students over the next 2 years. And we're excited to see that become part of a very robust remediation reform effort that is afoot across CUNY. That's now using multiple measures to assess both placement and exit, adopting the appropriate math pathway for a student that is appropriate for their major course of study, music to Bruce's ears, I know, and is aiming to move away from standalone remediation in favor of co-requisite remediation so that no student ever has to use any of their own money or their valuable financial aid to pay for a 0-credit remediation course. So all of these exciting initiatives have come together in our strategic framework called Connected CUNY, which presents a 21st century vision of CUNY that creates a more cohesive experience for all of our students and aims to embrace a culture of completion, where all students from college transition through completion and career launch have a cohesive plan at CUNY. We're embracing a double-digit increase of our associate degree completion rates in 3 years and robust increase of our baccalaureate rates. And that work's going to be powered by our partnership with Complete College America as we embrace a Momentum Year campaign to embrace the game changers that you've heard about from Bruce and others this morning. So we have much to be proud of. But the most important thing is the work that is ahead of us. These are very challenging times, nationally and locally, and CUNY is not exempt from those forces. But at these moments, great things can happen. Walls fall, myths about what's possible and not possible crumble, and a new sense of purpose and clarity arises. And so when my colleagues and I go to work every day, that sense of clarity is with each of us as we think about the 275,000 degree-seeking students that we come to work to serve, who are there claiming their place at the table of higher education at CUNY. And they have one request for us: help me realize my American dream. And there's only one clear response to that request: we can, we must, and we will do better for you. Thank you.